Welcome back to Talking Art, supported by Quad City Bank and Trust. My name is Ben Goujon with Quad City Arts, and today I'm ecstatic to be talking art with Hallie Weis, assistant editor and former participant of Fresh Films. Hallie, welcome to Talking Art.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited to have you here today. Fresh Films is a wonderful program here in the Quad Cities, and applications are open for the next round, and so we're going to talk about that. But I have to say, I learned about Fresh Films just kind of tangentially in discussions with Kelly, but then I got to participate in Fresh Films last summer, and it was amazing. It blew me away. So you were a participant in Fresh Films. So let's start with that. Tell me about your experience and how you got involved.
So I started out, we have a weekly program for high schoolers, and then we have the accelerated program, which is obviously faster, and it's for, college age, 18 to 29, and so I participated in the accelerated program, and they gave those participants the opportunity to interview for an internship at Fresh Films.
Yeah.
And I applied for that, and I ended up as an editor there. And so, I had not really edited much, but I had done the program, and now I'm here.
Well, and we'll talk more about editing, because there's a lot of art in editing, especially with film. That's what makes the movie that we see. But the thing I found so cool about Fresh Films is it's a film program, and you learn all kind of the aspects of filmmaking, but you also get a ton of hands-on experience. You did the accelerated program. Talk us through that, what that program was like.
I mean, it was really just, we did a couple of projects. We did a short film and a documentary. And so it was kind of just, we have an instructor who would go over, we would do training with audio equipment and camera equipment, like the gimbal, which is the thing that acts as a chicken head, to steady the camera. That's how I think of it, and stuff like that. And then actually go and, we would do the pre-production process of getting, shot lists, storyboards. If we had to, for a documentary, we had to find someone to interview and prepare questions and stuff like that. And, for a short film, obviously storyboards, going over the script, and then we get the equipment and we go out and we shoot. And, we have our instructor to kind of guide us if we need that, but it's just kind of giving us that, giving us that hands-on experience.
Yeah. Well, I love that you talked about pre-production work, because as someone who came from the theater world, the crafting of the play or whatever you're putting up is all in the rehearsal room. And I think so much of when a lot of people think about film and preparing a film, it's all about the shoot. And that is such a small part of creating a film. There's so much pre-production work that go in, and so much post-production work that goes in. And the shoot is just kind of okay, we're getting ready for this part. That is, maybe, you may have 2 years of pre and post production around a 6-week shoot to create that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you're just kind of, most of the time, even during the production process, the actual amount of time that you're shooting is so minimal compared to the amount of time that you're setting up and taking down and setting up again. And, obviously with actors, wardrobe and makeup, and there's so much going on before you are pressing record. But even before you're getting to that point, one time a student mentioned like that in the program you are given scripts instead of writing your own when you're doing the short film.
Sure.
And I was like, like to have you guys write those scripts, like screenwriting is its own, like there's so much that goes into it. It would take up the whole program, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let alone like, because we already have them doing all of the other pre-production stuff before you even are actually shooting. And so just kind of like, yeah, being able to have that balance. And so many of them have said too, like, oh, I'm seeing that like there is so much more that goes into it than just grabbing the camera and shooting,
Yeah.
which is like cool to see, because when you can actually be there doing it and understanding like what's happening rather than just being told what it's going to be like, is then you can be like, oh, okay, I understand like how it works,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really important too, because as, I think a lot of people when they're dreaming or envisioning a career in the film industry, for a lot of people, it probably is that more like auteurish, like I am going to write the script and make my masterpiece, where like when you're literally crafting your career, it's like, no, I'm going to shoot some commercials. I'm going to,
Right.
you don't have control over that script or over what the project is, or you're just hired on as a director and like, here's the script you're going to direct. So, those times when you do get to do a short film that you wrote, like that's the gold.
Right, yeah.
Versus the meat and potatoes of the career.
Yeah, and I said to that student, I was like, I get it. I love writing. I'm a writer. I majored in creative writing. Like, I also want to write my own stuff and then shoot my own stuff. But like I said, like it's just there's so much that goes into writing, aside from like actually making the film. But we also do have a screenwriting program that actually just wrapped up.
Yeah.
It was a 6-week program, and so that kind of gives filmmakers that opportunity to be able to learn those skills of screenwriting. And then I'm like, hey, now you have these skills and you can go make your own. You can go make that masterpiece of
Yeah.
yours. Like once you're there and understanding how things work, then it's like a foundation for you to do what you were already like imagining you would do.
Well, and that's so important because the technical elements of film are so important to it. Like, I mean, I did a lot of like student films when I was starting my acting career, and like how many of them just ended up being, and for me, I was like, I need footage for my reel as an actor to get. And so many of them would be unusable because either like the lighting was terrible or the sound was bad. And all those elements have to come together.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
No.
Like it's so easy to mess up sound.
Oh, yeah. And sound is one of those things too where like, especially because we all walk around with a camera in our pockets, right? And obviously it's not a professional camera with all the settings and all the buttons, but like I feel like because of that, like that sound seems like the thing that comes up is like people are always afraid to do sound because it's like you don't know, you're holding a Zoom mic and you're like, what is this? I don't know what I'm doing, And so to like just to be able to have that and like, oh, okay, this is at least like the basics, you could make something on your own that's a student film, might not be like well-rounded,
Right.
but like it's better to understand at least a little bit like how that stuff works, because again, like if you've never even seen that equipment, let alone like worked with it, it's not going to turn out well if you just try to wing it,
Yeah. There was a store in New York called B&H, and it was a big electronics store. And I remember always walking in there, and it was really cool because it was kind of like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, where it had like conveyor belts all over the ceiling. So you'd like buy something on the third floor and they'd put it in a chute and it would get sucked up and then go on conveyor belts down to the front register. And it was really cool. And I remember walking in there and just being like, I don't know what 95% of this stuff in here is, but I want it all.
Yeah.
Because then I think I'll be able to use it and make
Right.
something amazing.
Yeah, because once you actually see it and you can conceptualize, like, because when you imagine how a movie is made, at least in my mind, it's just like cartoon, just like cloud of stuff going on, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like it's hard to understand what you actually are doing. And then, you know, you're holding a Zoom mic and you're like, oh, okay, I just have to, you know, adjust the levels while I'm listening or whatever. Like being like, oh, this is something that I could actually do and
Yeah.
like want to do once you see that instead of just imagining it as like a hypothetical. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it's like I love that analogy of a cloud of activity around a film set. I remember the first time I got on a big film set, and it was, you know, it was a 30-second commercial for mashed potatoes. And there were 3 actors in it, like me and 2 kids. And the crew was like 50 or 60 people,
Yeah.
you know? And you think like, oh, this is a very simple, like 3 people sitting at a table eating mashed potatoes and smiling at each other.
Right.
Easy peasy.
But then you're like, okay, well, you said there's a table, there's mashed potatoes. Where are we gonna get that stuff
Yeah.
from? Let alone the like.
We had a
what's the
whole
shot
team
gonna
for
look
food
like?
photography.
Right.
And
Yeah. There's so much that goes into it, and then you are also like setting up the shot and how it's gonna look, and you know directing the actors is like kind of like one of the last steps
Yeah.
of the production process.
Yeah. I am always amazed when I go to see a film and you see how long the film credits are. And just the thought of how many people it takes to really make a film, from PAs to catering to, you know, all those moving pieces that have to come together, you know, to collaborate to make that thing happen. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like you think of, you know, you have your different departments, right? Like
Yeah.
camera, lighting, sound, you know, all of that stuff. But like you said, all of that has to like come together and work together. You know, like I said, it's like if you're thinking about, you might have to have like food photography, or like
Yeah.
what is the, you know, the lighting team might have to work with those people to think about like, oh, are the lights going to be hot on the food or something like that. Like, you know, when things come up that you have to be like, okay, this is kind of this department, but it's also kind of this one, and you all just kind of have to like work together.
Yeah. So I assume like you've kind of found your way into editing for now, but you got to work on tons of different departments while you were with Fresh Films, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
What are your favorites? Like, what do you, as a filmmaker, like, what, if you could do one department, what would it be?
See, that's such a tough question because like, I mean, like I said, I'm a writer, so I could just give the basic answer of like, I would want to be the one writing.
Yeah.
But I guess aside from that, I don't know what my favorite one would be, because and even me, like I do have like camera and audio experience, but like, you know, since then I've been editing so much that I haven't had as much camera experience, so it's like I really did like working with camera, but I would like to do that more. I guess I wouldn't say that it's like my favorite department, but you know, I would like to do that more, because I'm the type of person where, you know, I'm watching a movie and I don't really have any like analysis to give. I'm just like, oh, that shot looks good. I like the way that looks, you know? And so it was fun to just be able to like, you know, try to figure out how to compose a shot that you think looks cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, for the creative side, normally I'm like thinking about the story. And so then being able to understand like how camera, audio, lighting, acting, all of the different departments can like contribute to that story. Maybe that's why it's also so hard for me to pick one, is because I'm like, you know, all of those things are contributing to conveying what the script says, aside from just what the words are in the script. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. That's a that's a tough question to answer, I guess. But I also, I mean, I really do like editing too because like I feel like I kind of use a lot of the same skills in writing that I do in editing. And so that's just another step of the process of like whatever the story of that film is, I'm getting to contribute to it, not just in the script or with the camera or whatever, but like in the edit as well. So that's really cool.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that because I mean, editing really is an art form all to itself. Like that's where, you know, you've done the shoot and you have all this raw footage, and then as the editor, like you are then shaping the story. And you know, you hear so many stories about films where like the shooting script ends up completely different from the final film because they've looked at what they have and put the jigsaw puzzle together in a different way. So what is it about editing, you know, that you think, because I can see where your experience as a writer would really kind of help with that.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I also think of it as kind of like a puzzle. Like if I have, you know, like a bunch of clips, now I'm trying to figure out how to, you know, piece them together and what order to put them in order to tell this story. And then so I feel like that's just kind of what writing is, but like with video instead of words, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how can, you know, I'll be like, you know, I have like this that can kind of set up as like an intro, and then I have this that can kind of go after that, but I need to find something that can, you know, transition between these two clips, and like that is just like, I mean, like I said, I am a storyteller, I guess is what I like just really love. And so like I get to feel like I'm like building out that story the same way as I do when I'm writing, when I have like, you know, two scenes that I really like and I have to figure out how I can connect them or something like that. And I do a lot of our like behind the scenes and like marketing content for Fresh Films. And so I am a lot of the times, just like I said, I have a bunch of clips and I'm like, okay, how can I, you know, put these together to like say what I'm trying to say, you know?
Well, that's something I always wonder when I watch films, and like you'll see the B-roll footage between something of like, I watched Train Dreams the other day, and it's like, here's a shot of waving wheat, or or like the shot of just the cup of coffee sitting there between scenes. And I'm always curious, like, with the process of like, is that something that the screenwriter put in, or that came in like, you know, the team was like, let's just get a bunch of B-roll footage and see what works where. How does that process work kind of from your end?
I mean, I think it like always just depends, because like, you know, it depends on your screenwriter whether, or your director, whether you would have, you know, in your script like, oh, there's going to be a B-roll shot of this right here.
Right.
But, you know, there's also so many times where once you get to the edit, you're like, I need a B-roll shot and I don't have it. Can we get that or something, you know? And like I said, I do a lot of our like behind the scenes stuff. So it's not as like narrative, you know, as like a film.
Right.
And so like sometimes I'll have like I said, a bunch of clips, and you know, one of my bosses will be like, oh, can we take out this one? I just don't know if, and I'm like, no, because like I if I take that one out, then these two feel awkward next to each other, and then I have to, you know, and so it's just sometimes like the flip side of like I said, I have two parts that need a transition between them. I have to go find it, and I might have to be like, hey, like I don't have this, you know. So I think it, you know, it just kind of, I think, depends, because I've heard of some directors that are like very diligent, and it's like, we're going to get this and make sure that we get all of this, and it's like everybody's like, why are we getting all of this B-roll? It doesn't matter. But then the editor is like, thank you.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where the director is just kind of like, you know, willing to just be like, okay, well, you know, we can we can figure it out. And as an editor, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just the editor. I need you to get me the footage. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, I guess that is normally how it goes. It just kind of depends.
Well, you know, there's also like, I loved what you were talking about like if I take this clip out, this happens, because it really is a series of dominoes.
Yes.
You know, that you're putting together, and it's like, you know, I edited that clip because, you know, the actor gave me this movement that I can edit on in this clip. But if I take that out, that's going to translate in the next frame. Like they're looking at this thing or whatever it is.
Yeah, and then it's like that thing of like when you're the editor and the director comes to you and is like, oh, can we use a different take on that one? You're like, no, because it doesn't match up with the next shot or whatever.
Right.
But like I said, like that's why it feels so similar to writing for me in a lot of ways, is like, you know, like anyone who's a writer, I feel like can relate to the like, oh, could you just like take out this one sentence or whatever, and it's like, or this one scene or anything, and it's like that sentence conveys something that nothing else here does, you know? So like taking that out takes something out, and you know, sometimes if you're trying to cut down or whatever, you have to do that, but that's just an example of like, you know, the types of stuff that I run into when I'm editing that is like, this is the same things I deal with when I'm writing, you know?
Yeah.
So it can be, I don't know. I really like that aspect of it because, like I said, I just love writing and telling stories. And I wasn't sure that I would like editing. You know, it just seems very like tedious, and it can be.
Yeah.
But once I started editing, and I was like, oh, this is just like storytelling. Even if I'm not editing like a narrative film, even if it is just kind of like a promotional video or whatever, I get to tell a story and figure out how to tell that story, and that's really fun.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes ever, and I've seen this attributed to multiple people, but I like to say it's Oscar Wilde, but I'm pretty sure it predates him, is that if you wanted a shorter letter, you should have given me more time. You know, and I think about that editing process, whether it's with writing or with film and video, like just that time it takes to like, here are all our ideas.
Right.
How do we condense this down to the most condensed way?
That is true. I feel like normally, you know, a lot of times when you're writing, your first draft is just kind of, you know, spilling all your thoughts onto the page. Just get them out. That's great. Just everything, you know, just get it on the page, and then you can make it nice later.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of do the same thing with editing. I'm like, okay, here's everything I might possibly want for this video, and now I gotta figure out, you know, which of these. And that's why I will take everything I might possibly want, because I might have like, you know, a few clips that are all together, but then I have to change something, and then this one doesn't work anymore. But I have this one that's kind of similar, so I'll swap it out because this one does work. And it's just, you know, I'll be rearranging and stuff. And but like, I feel like that again is a similar process of like, you start out just like, here's everything, and then we're gonna kind of cut it back, which is, you know, just like, again, it's like a similar process for both ways, even though I also think like as a creative person and as a storyteller, like having to cut down anything, you're like, oh, I don't want to take this out, you know?
Kill your babies.
Yeah, I'm like, why did I put everything here? You know, because now I got to get rid of it. But yeah, it's just it's a similar process when you're building it out, but also when you're kind of like refining it as well.
When you hear so many people talk about film in that sense of like, you know, come into the scene as late as possible and leave the scene as early as possible, you know, and I think like that comes down to that job of editing it. And, you know, obviously there are some films where it's like, no, I want the, you know, the Jane Campion, like we've got a 4-minute shot of something very slow and deliberate. But you have that editing up to it that earns you that time.
Yeah.
We've got 2 programs starting off. right?
Yes, yeah. So that's going to be January 13th. Applications are open right now. So high schoolers for the like weekly program, we have locations on both sides of the river. I believe Rocky and Davenport Central, yeah. And yeah, and then we also have accelerated for 18 to 29. Both of those programs, for youth it's free, or for high schoolers it's free, for accelerated it's paid. And both of them, no experience needed, no experience necessary. You can be from, you know, any walk of life. And yeah, just get that like experience that will get you to like, you know, a real career, right? Like I work for Fresh Films now, like we talked about, you know, so yeah, I mean, you should apply if you're interested in filmmaking. You can go to freshfilms.org, and yeah, applications are open.
Yeah.
So.
Did you ever think you'd be a film editor? Well, you went to school at Augie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you majored in creative writing.
I did.
And did you think this is what's going to prepare me to be a film editor?
I didn't, because like I said, I had not really edited much before I actually got the editing job, and so like working that editing job, I mean, it was like a internship, I guess, before it became a job, was kind of was how I learned how to edit. And like I said, I like wasn't sure that I would like it. But I wanted to be able to try everything, you know, like I wanted to be able to dip my toes into different departments and like see, you know, what I really liked. And, you know, I was majoring in creative writing, and, you know, like at some point during my college time, I was like, I still love writing, but I actually think I want to go into film.
Yeah.
And, you know, there wasn't a film major there, at least. I think there is now.
There is now, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, they were telling me, like, oh, we're going to make it a major, you should, you know, you should join. And I was like, I'm a senior, like,
Right.
I can't get the major, you know. But, so, you know, right after I left, but I had Fresh Films, so, you know, but yeah, I was like, I never realized how editing could be similar to writing and storytelling in general until I actually started doing it. And I was like, oh, like this actually does have a lot to do with what I went to school for, even though I didn't technically go to school for film, and I didn't go to school for editing, you know? So.
But yeah, those skills, like, I had never thought of it that way, but as soon as you brought it up, I was like, oh,
yeah,
that makes total sense.
Yeah, and yeah, I had never thought of it that way either. And like I said, I was like, editing is just a tedious process of like, you know, like getting everything neat. And I am like, you know, I'm a creative person. I don't want to have to be like, you know, neat and organized and whatever. But, you know, there's a lot of organized chaos in editing as well, which is, like I said, it's just, when you're writing, you have a handful of ideas that you have to figure out how to get them on the page. When I'm editing, I have a handful of clips or, you know, possible clips that I have to figure out how to get them on the timeline, you know. And so I was like, oh, like I can actually do this. Yeah. Because I was also just afraid. I was like, what if I'm no good at this? And I have kind of been able to see like my editing skills like progress as I've edited more and more, and realize that it's something that I could actually do and that I actually like doing.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's so important in any storytelling, like getting things in the correct order, because there's a million ways you could arrange a story or a film, like, you know, whether it's something that's completely out of order or anything, or just the way you present certain things. And you know, both any kind of storytelling or writing or editing, like sometimes it's, you know, you talked about having the thoughts, like it's making sense and putting order to something that may seem chaotic or just like, oh my gosh, there's this mountain of stuff.
Right.
How do I put it in an order that's going to communicate something to the person who's watching it or reading it or consuming it?
Yeah, because like the best stories, the most effective ones, like, that's what a story is. It's a series of things,
Yeah.
right? So it's like the order of how those things go, really affects like how that overall story like comes out. And I've even just been like, like I've heard like they've talked about the editors of The Office, right? Like they might have a bunch of comedic scenes that are scripted in one order, and then they're in the edit, they're just moving everything all around, and then they're watching it back and they're like, oh, this makes so much more sense,
Right.
So it like the order of events in a story really does affect how it plays out overall and how it comes off and like what you walk away with. And like that's why, especially when I'm doing, like I said, like marketing, it's like if we have a message that we want to like, if I want to say about the program that it is, like a great opportunity or whatever, making sure that I am conveying that, and that is like the feeling and the message that you walk away with, because I might have everything there, but if it doesn't click together in your mind as like the person watching, then it doesn't do anything,
Right. Yeah. It makes me think of, there's a certain person at Fresh Films who will remain unnamed, who has very strong feelings about a director who will name unnamed. But I think about Pulp Fiction and how, like, if you watch that movie in chronological order, like, yeah, it's another movie, but it is in that editing and in that storytelling that brought so much interest and made that film such a big deal when it came out.
Well, and even if you have a story that's not very structured and it is kind of chaotic, like that lack of structure is also a choice that you have to make, you always have to make a choice about like the structure and the order of things. And, like even if you're making like some type of like artsy, surreal film, like that's a choice to make it chaotic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of always something that you have to think about if you want to be like telling an effective story.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
This was awesome. Yeah.
This was really awesome.
It was, I kind of alluded earlier, but I got to act on one of the Fresh Films projects this last summer, and seeing all the kids, apprentices, I'm not sure the students, the correct word, filmmakers, like come
Students,
through
interns.
and be able to work with real professionals and get hands-on experience in all those different areas was so inspiring.
Well, and like I said, I do our behind the scenes like content, and so that's one of the really cool things about doing that too, is that I get to see everything that the students and the filmmakers and everyone participating is saying about it, and hear like their, like what they loved about it and how they grew, and also like what they didn't like about it. Like that is like, I have that perspective of like, oh, this is something a lot of the students mentioned, maybe we can like, we work on that next time or whatever.
Yeah.
And like it's super cool getting to like see all of that content, and it's funny because like I wasn't really doing much on set. I haven't interacted with a lot of the like people in the program, but I know them and I know their faces because I've edited them in videos, and I'm like, oh, I know you. And like even with you, I was like, I know that you probably don't know who I am, but I was like, I mean, I've been looking at your face, in this edit. So it's just, but it's cool to like kind of, it feels like I have like the inside scoop a little bit, because like, I guess along with the people like conducting the interviews, but like, like everybody else just sees the final stuff. But like I said, there's so many things that I have to like cut out, and I like getting to hear all of the students' stories of like just, and sometimes we'll interview them like before they actually started production and then afterwards, and like you can see like how they are just like more open and more confident and just kind of like came into their own a little bit, and like that's just really great to see too, like even if they're not like, because teenagers, they're not always going to be like, I really gained confidence during this experience. Some of them do, and I'm like, that's great, but some of them like I can just tell and I can feel that confidence like growing, and that's just that's so great to see, even though I'm not actually like working with them as much. I still get to see it like behind the scenes. So that's really cool.
And you saw that on set, like
yeah.
People would come in and you'd see them on day one looking very like, what's going on? I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then by the end of the week, they're like, all right, like getting everything in order. And
like I said, like stuff like equipment too, they'll be like, oh my God, I've never touched audio. And then they're like, oh, all you have to do is this. And then they, walk away from it and they're like, oh, audio is so cool. And like that kind of stuff is really great too. But yeah, like some of them are just like more timid, and also like getting along with each other and like creating like friendships and those connections, and like so many of them will like just even also making that connection with other people who like to do what you like to do. You can go make a project together, like it's just it's like that's really awesome too. And like obviously teenagers are so awkward and nobody wants to talk to each other at first, and they start to open up, and then I see them just in B-roll footage or just on set like making friends with each other and joking around and having fun. And I'm like, just so happy to see them like loosening up, because I know how nerve-wracking it can be.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something too, like, and I've experienced this in both theater and film, that's different than other jobs. Where like you get into that setting and like you are forced to bond and become a team and, not to throw this word around, but like be a family very quickly.
Yeah.
And then you get done and you all disperse and go on to other projects. But then whenever you see those people again, it's like a reunion, and it's like, like we went through something together. We did this thing together, and we will always have a connection because of that.
Yeah. And that's really great.
Yeah.
Especially, like filming is like can be long, over the summer, hot days, everyone's sweaty and everyone's like, like
it was hot in that house.
Oh yeah, it was hot in that house. And like that kind of, just like bonding, like over like you said, like we went through that together.
Yeah.
But also, we grew together and we learned how to use a camera and or just, learned how to feel more confident in yourself or whatever. Like, that's really awesome. And like having people that you feel comfortable with is so much better than having to do something on your own. And I think film is great for that, because like we talked about, like everyone has to work together and has to be able to coordinate and collaborate, and like you're just kind of knit together as a family right away.
Yeah.
And that's just a great way to get not just get you out of your shell, but get you to like have those connections with other people.
Yeah. Well, sign me up. I'm too old. But
I mean,
if I wasn't, I would sign up for Fresh Films.
Yes. Sign up if you are not too old. I believe our accelerated program is 18 to 29, but just, high schoolers and youth. And, obviously it's great to have other people participating as well. And we've had, so many of the crew on set over the summer were alumni as well.
Yeah. One question I have for you just about the high school program, and I don't know how many high schools or schoolers we have listening, but if grandma or aunt or uncle is listening or watching, do they have to go to the school that the program is at? Like I know we've got a program at Rocky and at Davenport Central. Do they have to go to those schools to participate in the program?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I
don't think so either, but
I don't think so for those sites. I know that, like, I don't know, because some of our, we're a nonprofit. We're funded by, like, like grants and stuff. We'll have, like, a structure with like certain schools or whatever, but
Sure.
no, I mean, that's just kind of like where it, and you know, it kind of like acts as an after school program, but you can just join just
Yeah.
to be a part of it. You don't have to go to that school.
Yeah, and I think is there one at the YWCA
Yes.
too?
Yep.
Yeah, so you could go to that.
Yes. There's also one at the YWCA.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It was such a pleasure to talk to you,
It was
and
awesome talking to you too.
I love Fresh Films. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us for Talking Art. For more information on Fresh Films, you can check out www.freshfilms.org. I'm Ben Goujon, and this was Talking Art.